Esperanza TV presents Taste and See. The story for today, Healed by God.
My name is Luzmila Vadillo, and I live in Lowell, Indiana. In 2020, many people were caught by an unknown and deadly virus. My husband and I were among those people. My husband had both of his lungs completely compromised, and I had my right lung affected. It was an unbelievable desperation. I would kneel, pray, cry out to my God for his promises, but every day he looked worse. We went into the hospital on a Thursday afternoon, around 5:30 in the evening. When they took my temperature, I had 102 degrees, 102. My husband didn't have a fever, so they focused more on me and told me, "Say goodbye to your husband because you have to go into another room." So through a small narrow window, a little window where I could only clearly see his face, I slowly raised my hand, said a heartfelt goodbye, and he in turn did precisely the same. Our life in the hospital felt more like a certainty of death, since the doctor told us there was nothing more that could be done to save us. One day, while I had a very high fever, I tried to press the emergency button, but I couldn't move my hands. When I couldn't, I started to panic. I opened my eyes, and when I did, the light in my room was on, and there were about 7 to 10 people there. Nurses, doctors, I don't know exactly who they were. And I felt happy because I thought, wow, they knew I needed them. So I tried to speak and say, "Give me medicine for the fever." When I tried to open my mouth, I couldn't. I felt like I was in a hole, trying to claw my way out, but I just couldn't. And again, I thought of my God, my best friend, and I said, "Lord, in your arms." Right away I said, "In your arms I faint." When I said that, I saw myself falling backward, and someone caught me, held me here in the middle of my arms, and that's when I knew it was my God. And I said in my mind, "It's you, my God. Now I can rest." And I didn't know anything else until the next day, Saturday. Right then, I literally felt the presence of God in my hospital room, and I felt that he was holding me. Little by little, I stopped feeling any pain. On Saturday, I opened my eyes and saw the sunlight again. I touched my body like this. Where am I? Is this me? And I sat up immediately. All the energy had come back to me again. And I'm sitting on that bed. I put my hands on the bed when suddenly they open the door and a nurse comes in and says to me, "Wow, you made it." But my husband was still in the hospital, and I kept praying for God to also perform a miracle in his life, just as he did in mine. I refused to leave there without my husband and cried out to the Lord for my husband's healing. And when the doctor came, I asked him, "Doctor, how is my husband?" That was my first question. And he looked at me with a very sad face, lowered his head and said, "He's still not doing well." So I asked them to let me talk to my husband, and they handed me a phone with a big screen, and that's where I saw him. He was breathing very badly, completely exhausted. And I told him, "Love, look, I don't have oxygen, so you can do it too, you can too, because the miracle that God did for me, he's going to do for you as well." The next day, both of his lungs started to recover, to the point that the doctors couldn't believe what was happening. And once again, we saw that God was answering our prayers. On Sunday afternoon, he no longer needed oxygen because the power of God healed him. And on Monday at 9 a.m., the two of us walked out of Cooper Hospital in New Jersey victorious. We both left the hospital, and today we live without any aftereffects from that illness. But above all, we live with gratitude for God's great mercy. The lesson I've learned, that without God I am nothing, and that everything is possible for God. And for everything, every little thing, even just to pick up a broom, I'm praying, because I say to the Lord, "Come and help me. Stay with me and walk with me."
In moments like these, which are so difficult for human beings, when we go through such great trials, but we have learned to trust and depend on God, who in His mercy gives us one more chance and saves us from death. That's why I invite you to learn to trust in God as we do.
Taste and see.
Now let us prepare to be faithful to God with our tithe and offerings.